Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on your time zone. And welcome to today's webinar, FSSC 22000, a food safety management system for packaging manufacturers. My name's Amy. I'm a member of the marketing team at the Perry Johnson Companies, and I'll be helping to facilitate today's webinar and offer technical support to our speakers. Today, we're welcoming a special guest, Jacqueline Southey of FSSC, and I'll be introducing her to y'all momentarily. But before we get started, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping notes here. I want to remind all of our attendees that you will be on mute for the duration of the session, just to ensure audio quality so there's no feedback, no bandwidth issues, etc. However, we do want to take any questions that you might have regarding the material discussed. So two of the most common questions we get are regarding the slides and whether or not the broadcast is being recorded. I'm happy to say that our slides will be available for download from the PGRFSI website, and we are indeed recording the session. So anyone who was unable to join us, or maybe you have to duck out early, or you just want to review part of it, you will be able to rewatch with the voiceover and the full Q&A free of charge on our YouTube channel. Just give us 24 to 48 hours to upload the slides and that broadcast, as I said, and they'll be available for you to review. Now, as I had mentioned, we do absolutely want to take any questions you might have, and there's no need to wait until the end of the broadcast to ask those questions. The way you'll ask a question is just go in the control panel on your computer screen here and open up the little question tab at the bottom by clicking that triangle on the left-hand side. It should drop down a little box for you to type in your questions here. You'll just click that send button at the very bottom, and it'll come in on our side for us to answer once we have finished up with the completed, the prepared slides. But now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our main attraction for today. That's Jacqueline Southey. She is the North American representative for FSSC, the globally recognized GFSI benchmarked food safety certification system. Based out of Washington, D.C., Jacqueline works to build a broader understanding of how accredited FSSC 22000 certification can contribute to global harmonization in food safety, forge international compliance, and meet the needs of the public and private sectors. A native of the UK, Jacqueline graduated with a BSc in agricultural science and a PhD in animal science from the University of Nottingham, and she has a background in transatlantic business development. So Jacqueline, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to you so you can take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Amy, and good morning, everybody. So first of all, I'm just going to see if my slides work here. And let me just see if I can move it on to the next one. There we go. Excellent. So hello, thank you very much. And today we're going to talk about FSSC 22000 as a certification system for packaging. And as Amy introduced me to you, I'm actually from the other side. I'm an animal scientist, so I'm going to skirt over the technical aspects of the packaging engineering, and we're going to talk about the system that can encompass the safety of the packaging manufacturer. So just wanted to have full disclosure there. So what we are going to talk about, we're going to talk about how, first of all, we'll introduce FSSC 22000. I know that we've got a fairly mixed audience today. Some of you will be familiar with FSSC 22000, some of you may not, but you may be familiar with other ISO management systems or occupational health and safety procedures that will all tie into today's webinar. So what I want to do is I want to show how you can tie all those strings together to your benefit to improve efficiency and productivity. The way we do that is through the Annex SL of the ISO management system standards. I'm going to talk about those. We'll talk about how FSSC encompassing packaging by the addition of the packaging prerequisite programs. And then as interest is just to sort about the common non-conformities that we are seeing in the version 5.1 system that we're running right now. Not really to point any fingers, but just to sort of show, to give an indication of those areas where we might want to look more closely, be aware of the the trip-ups in the standard, and then of course come back to the benefits of FSSC 22000. Now let's talk about FSSC 22000. So how we describe FSSC is as a framework. I've just messed up my slides here, beg your pardon. Let me go back. As a framework for, let me just, beg your pardon, everything's gone haywire here. So as a framework for robust and effective food safety management. If you just bear with me, I've just had a mishap with my display. I can't do it. All right, sorry, let's go back. All right, I'm sorry, Amy, I've got some technical issues and I just wanted to get my slide back into one of my screens and I can't. So anyway, so FSSC 22000, it uses existing ISO standards. So we have all the benefits of having the ISO 22000. And it's what comes with that is the international acceptance and the consensus of having those standards that are developed and written through global consensus and science-based, which lead to reliable certification. And in addition, we're also GFSI recognized. So we have all the benefits of the ISO system and the GFSI. So I'm going to see if I can just move over and get everything all linked in here. So this is a summary here of an overview of FSSC 22000, and it's a kind of just an infographic, but it explains a little bit about where we are right now. So we're fairly new to the program of GFSI certification relative to some of the other standards. We came into existence once ISO 22000 was developed. As I said, we don't write our own standards. We benefit from having the ISO standards. And once that was developed, we were able to produce the FSSC certification program by adding the elements to allow for GFSI benchmarking. We're also a little bit different because we're a non-profit. We are managed by a board of stakeholders and a foundation. So we're not profit driven. We're very independent, and we really are here just to service the industry and add sort of the extensions to the scope as industry really demands it, and when the prerequisite programs become available. We've grown enormously. We're currently running at about 30,000 certificates globally, and we work through our network of licensed certification bodies, of which PJR is one. We also have representatives like myself all over the globe, so that we, in addition to our global nature, have boots on the ground. So we provide a local service. And this is how we were able to offer the packaging certification. So once the PRP for packaging became available, we were able to offer FSSC 22000 packaging for the industry. So this is how FSSC is made up. So we're based on the ISO 22000 management system. So that applies across the whole of the supply chain. And we specialize in particular areas by adding the sector-specific prerequisite programs. And on top of that, we have additional requirements that provide the consistency and the integrity that allows us to license our certification bodies. It also incorporates our integrity program so that we can monitor our certification to secure consistency through all our certified organizations. So while we have that to provide the consistency and the governance, it also provides a little bit of agility because we can update the FSSC additional requirements. We cannot update ISO 22000 or the prerequisite programs because I've explained those are under the domain of ISO. Those are written by global consensus, and we update when those are updated. But we can also update if there are other issues that are pressing to the industry that we're aware of, that we can accommodate by updating the additional requirements. So that's the structure of FSSC. So as I said, many of you may already be familiar. You may already be using FSSC 22000 for manufacturing or packaging, and that's how and so you'll be very familiar to that structure. So one of the things that I did talk about, and one of the benefits of FSSC 22000 is that it's based on ISO 22000. And ISO 22000 is an ISO management system. And then a lot of people say, well, what's so good about management system? What is the management system? An ISO management system could be described as being the best process or the best way of doing something. And what it is, it's a structure of interrelated parts that provides those system of processes that will allow a business to really meet its optimal performance. So in addition to the food safety management system of ISO 22000, there are many other management systems that, again, you may be familiar with. There's the quality management standards under ISO 9001, and they help to improve the quality, reduce failures, increase efficiency, and just raise the general standard and quality of a product. There's the environmental management standards under ISO 14000, which help to reduce a business's environmental impacts by doing things the best way. And if you're doing things the best way, your waste is reduced, you become more efficient, and ultimately lead to increased sustainability. The health and safety standards have been very topical of late under 45001, the occupational health and safety, to help reduce accidents in the workplace, look after your workers. We're extending it to consider mental health as people are going through various struggles following COVID, getting back to normal. And that's another consideration. You can't have a safe environment to produce safe products if you don't have a safe workforce. And then, of course, energy management systems become very topical when we, especially in this current economic climate, when we're looking at efficiencies, wanting to reduce waste under 50,000. And then the IT safety standards, cybersecurity ISO 27001. Many of you will be familiar with that when we have to consider the protecting our data, protecting our computer systems, again, to continue to perform, continue to maintain efficiency, and just maintain our business. So these are all ISO management systems. So again, you may already be familiar with some of those. You may be running 14001. So this common management framework will be familiar to you. So all of the management standards are all now based on the same framework, which we refer to Annex SL. So maybe things are coming together. As I said, I wanted to pull all these strings together. And this common structure is common throughout the ISO management systems, of course, including ISO 22000. So all of these management systems have these main 10 phrases, and they apply across the board. And in them, they apply or they define the optimum processes. They are based on the plan, do, check, act philosophy, and they are based on thinking about risks and opportunities, focusing on team leadership, competence, and planning and support. And those of you that are already running a food safety management system, you'll be familiar with some of those phrases. If you're already running 9001, you may also be familiar with those phrases. And so these are where we have this common framework. So the benefits, of course, of that is if you're running one of those systems, you'll also have many of the elements of the other systems. So ISO 22000, as I said, and 9001, 45001, 45001, and all those that I didn't have room for on this slide all have those same elements in them. Some of them may be some differences in the operation. Obviously, there could be some slight differences in the references, but all of them apply, all of them define the terms and definitions. You have to be aware of your scope. You have to bring in your management commitment. You have to go through the planning, and all of the issues are very common. So if you're doing them for one, many of them you can do for another. And so the context of the organization for a food company will be similar throughout all of the elements. And so this is the Annex SL. And I think if you're, as I said, a lot of these, it'll start becoming you'll realize how you can put all these things together. So perhaps if you're already running 9001, many of the elements that you are running already will be common to FSSC 22000. You'll already have to understand the needs of the interested parties. You will already be doing that risk and opportunities assessment. You'll already be aware of the scope of your organization. Perhaps the only difference with adding FSSC 22000, if you're a packaging company, is that you're going to think about your hazard control panel. You have to start thinking about safety. With 9001, you're thinking about quality. You have to optimize your products. With FSSC 22000, it's a food safety management. It's a food safety management system. So you have to define a hazard control plan. You start looking at your risks to human safety. You conduct that hazard analysis under element 8. And that is how you incorporate your food safety management system alongside your 9001. So, as I said, if you're already 9001, you've probably already got your management commitment, you're doing your document control, you're doing your validation, you're doing your reviews. You just need to add your hazard control plan and the PRPs. Similar if you're using 45001, many of the processes already, you will have your management and your document control and your validation, except within your operation, you'll be thinking about your risks your workers are exposed to, as opposed to the risks that you could be introducing through your supplies or your materials of your packaging. And again, you're going to be reviewing, and it's the same process. And so you'll be very familiar with all of those. So that's one of the key benefits of FSSC 22000. You have all the elements of being a real management system, as well as being able to run alongside other processes that you're already running. So just to reiterate, you have many benefits from having that harmonized structure. You have a common language and approach across functions. You increase your productivity and efficiency. You can focus on continuous improvement. We talk about continuous improvement in food safety management systems all the time, but if you're running occupational health and safety and you're running 45001, you're also focusing on continuous improvement and learning by bringing in sort of systems to control risks and reducing accidents, to keep more people on the floor, reducing elements of unhappiness or illness, as we've been very familiar with of late, to increase efficiency and effectiveness. So it's the same basic principle. If you're running more than one, you also have an enhanced understanding of that management system approach. We can share our learnings across department. Somebody who's already used to controlling the risks of food safety in your packaging or your food production can share with the occupational health and safety department on how to control risks, how to look at hazard reduction, and make safety everybody's main goal. You also have opportunities to integrate these systems as processes, as I've been clear, and again, which we could come back to at the end, opportunities for integrated audits. If you're being audited for one, you could be audited for another and reduce your time there. And then other benefits, if you're running occupational health and safety, you have reduced premiums for insurance and many other of all the benefits of just improved productivity and efficiency. Another benefit as well, which is very topical with running the ISO management systems, is they're aligned with the UN sustainability goals. So the 17 United Nations sustainability goals that GFSI is now focused on, and many industries throughout the world are focusing on, are very much aligned to the ISO management systems. 22000, for instance, focuses on sustainability goal 2, to reduce hunger, 3, good health and well-being, and also obviously responsible consumption. And the United Nations also uses it as one of the advocates to go towards sustainability, is to use recognized global standards. So already you're moving in the right direction. So just to sort of reiterate, these all provide optimum business performance. Again, improved customer satisfaction, less returns, less issues, more brand protection, improved efficiency, better use of resources, reduction in waste, and again, with the management system, the operational resilience and flexibility, which we saw during COVID. All of our clients that were FSSC certified had a much better visibility on their supply chain, which comes with the management system. And of course, international recognition, regulatory compliance, all leading to business growth. So all of the benefits sort of are obvious as you start looking at using the benefits of a process that's already been compiled, is already been written by experts, and then being able to align it with some of the processes that you are already running. It makes perfect sense. So again, let's go back and think about how FSSC 22000 applies to packaging. So if you are looking to become, excuse me, FSSC certified, you would need to meet and to be audited to the requirements of these three main elements. ISO 22000, which is applied throughout, and this is the management system framework. And as I said, anyone within the food supply chain can be certified to ISO 22000. If you want to be FSSC 22000 certified, we specify the prerequisite programs for the sector. So for packaging, this would be ISO 22002.4, which I just moved too quickly, and then the additional requirements. So these are the technical specifications that if you were in the various sectors, and they provide the background, the prerequisite programs or the good manufacturing practices, if you like, for the different sectors. So for manufacturing, that would be 22002.1, transport and storage 22004, and for packaging 5, and for packaging 22004. So prerequisite programs for food packaging manufacturing, and these would be slotted into that middle patch. So for certification, it'd be 22000, additional requirements, and 22002.4. And these outline the basic conditions and activities to maintain a acceptable hygienic environment for food packaging. And these cover the elements very similar to those that would be required for manufacturing, but obviously your risks and your hazards are going to be different. And these are all laid out very clearly in the prerequisite programs, and they provide advice and specifications. So you would look to all of those that would apply to your particular process. So the construction and layout of workspace all have to be conducive to producing safe, non-contaminated packaging, waste disposal, equipment suitability, how to clean them, how to maintain them, prevention of contamination coming in from raw materials being introduced by the process. Obviously, in packaging, we're going to be dealing with glass, with plastic, with metal, with cardboard. We have to think about the contamination and the introduction of hazards in the manufacturing process. The cleaning of the facilities, personal hygiene and team member facilities. And although it's packaging could be a dirty environment, we still have to think about the contaminants and the hazards that could be introduced. Rework and withdrawal, whether they're already being printed, whether it's been contaminated, how to recycle, and all bearing in mind that we want to reduce our risks and our costs while also improving efficiency. So the way this is set up, the way the prerequisite programs and the management system is set up, it's all towards the same end of just improving the outcome. So the additional requirements we've talked about briefly, and these are added sometimes to meet the requirements of the GFSI benchmarking requirements. So as I said, FSSC is benchmarked. It makes the ISO 22000 management system benchmarkable by GFSI. And so the additional requirements will apply to you if you're a packaging manufacturer and you want to achieve the GFSI recognition. So there are requirements that are added to ISO 22000 through version 5.1, and they're listed here. So there are specific extra requirements for management of services, monitoring them and verifying them, product labeling according to the GFSI requirements or additional regulatory requirements. Of course, food defense and food mitigation, which we have additional guidance on the website. Logo use for FSSC, management of allergens, environmental monitoring, transport and delivery, and so on. And so some of them will apply to packaging, some of them will not apply to packaging. Those that do apply to you need to be incorporated in your management system, and you will be auditing against. But in doing so, you will achieve GFSI benchmark certification. So let's just look a little bit about the non-conformities. And this is really just to sort of provide an idea of those things perhaps to look out for if you're moving forward in FSSC certification. So one thing that I didn't mention already is that FSSC has a 3-year certification cycle, like ISO 22000, like ISO 9000 or 14001, but GFSI requires an annual audit, and so that's a surveillance audit, which is carried out every year, one of which would be unannounced. We also have stage 1 and stage 2 audit for certification and recertification audits after the 3 years. So when you recertified after 3 years. And so this was I thought this was actually quite interesting. Just again, this would apply probably to anybody that's FSSC certified, not just those that are packaging, but I thought it was quite interesting that most non-conformities are actually found on that surveillance audit. So it may be that you become a little bit complacent in your management system in those elements that perhaps need to be sharpened up, and that's the benefit of having a surveillance audit, that you really need to keep on top of your management system, because that is key to providing a safe product. The transition audit is if you're transferring from another certification program or from ISO 22000, and the recertification audit is when you're recertifying. So what do these look like, and what are the non-conformities? So I've taken out the actual numbers because I don't think that they really add anything, but it just does provide a little bit of an indication of the challenges and the aspects that really are important to FSSC certification. So we find a high incidence of non-conformities in physical contamination, processes to prevent physical contamination, and not keeping perhaps the process as clean as possible, or not protecting the process within the manufacturing plant. So prevention of physical contamination is a high incident non-conformity. General requirements, again, and maintenance of just general maintenance of your environment is also needs to be paid attention to. Both of those are in the prerequisite program, so both of those are kind of under the GMPs. Under ISO 22000, within the certification under category I, there's some non-conformity in traceability. So traceability is still required under GFSI. You still need to keep a track of your supplies and your raw materials, and if you have an instance, you need to be able to track back so that you can correct that. Competence, again, that's a management system issue, a requirement of ISO 22000. is to ensure that all your workers are competent for the job that they are doing. Again, it's a very important part of ISO 22000 leadership and competence and training to ensure that your workers are empowered and involved and know why they're doing the job that they're doing and the importance of a management system. And then finally, storage. Maybe not keeping the storage area as clean as possible, considering that their packaging materials, external or close contact, still need to be in clean storage conditions. So I thought that was quite an interesting, just to give a little bit of an array of what will be looked at and what's important, and how your customer can really be confident that you are, producing a safe and consistent product in your packaging materials. So just to review, just to go over some of the benefits, and again, FSSC 22000, as we said, really does accrue all the benefits of having that ISO management system, reducing waste, improving performance, and all of that, can't be bad. And because you have a management system, and because you're looking at all these other elements, and because you've got these prerequisite programs in there, you're constantly increasing your capability to deliver consistent and improved services and products. And that comes in with the plan, do, check, act process. So it's all incorporated. It's not just a certification program you get a business management system. So, and in that, because it's risk-based, you're improving your risk management. You improve your risk management across the whole of the different functions too, because of the Annex SL and how these all line up, and how, if you're already incorporating an environmental management system, this is going to lie very logically alongside it. The protection of the people environment is tantamount to the ISO standards, the global regulations, and moving forward with consistency to really improve the environment for everybody. And as I said, it aligns with the sustainability goals, so it's providing a short-term solution to those long-term sustainability goals. So ISO really is, working, very hard to make things sustainable, but without jeopardizing productivity or efficiency. So it's improving processes now, but without bringing things to a halt, but to continue to improve. Another thing that I touched on, because we have the ISO 22000 framework, we also have that baked in element of food safety culture. So this is talked about in the GFSI element and in the food production industry as a whole. So it's been a requirement now for GFSI standards to include culture within their certification program. And they've identified the need for management commitment as being important to the development of culture, communication throughout the organization, making sure that everybody knows what they're doing and why they're doing. Training and competence has been identified as being very important, and allowing an option for feedback. So if an employee finds something that's wrong, or finds that there's a contaminant that's getting into the cardboard hold, that they need to be, feel free to provide feedback. And you need to be able to monitor it as well. So when these came in, we did a gap analysis against ISO 22000 and FSSC against these requirements, and we decided that this is a main key part of ISO 22000, and that food safety culture is really embedded in ISO 22000 and FSSC. And I actually agree. I think that you can't do FSSC 22000 without having that essential element of culture there, without having competent and trained personnel. And you can't have, and the two are just combined. So we believe that food safety culture is all part of the FSSC 22000 certification. And we have a guidance document online too, so to find out how we believe it's covered and how an auditor can monitor. So that's just kind of, we weren't going to dwell on food safety culture today, but just because it is very important, and we believe that it's just inherently developed as you take on ISO 22000 FSSC. So this is just to see how FSSC is aligned to the ISO 22000 management system, which in turn is aligned to the other management systems, 14001, 50001. So you have the management system approach throughout because it comes with ISO 22000. you have that harmonized Annex SL. So you have that option to integrate with the other management systems. You have that science-based foundation providing reliable certification. The 22000 incorporates the HACCP based on the Codex element, based on Codex. And you have the continuous improvement plan, do, check, act element of the food safety management system. It's risk-based. ISO 22000 FSSC cover the supply chain. ISO 22000 covers it, FSSC covers it where we have prerequisite programs available. And we define it as not being a prescriptive certification. It's not a checklist. It's focused on a broader what you need to achieve and rather than how. So it's a less prescriptive element, providing the processes, if you like, of how to do it, but not what to do. I think that's probably a better definition. The other benefits, the additional benefits of FSSC is that it's GFSI recognized. So you have the business to business benefits. It's a certification program that's used by many of the top 100 food companies. So it recognizes packaging suppliers that are FSSC 22000 certified. And the benefit of being FSSC 22000 certified over just ISO 22000 is that we list every FSSC certified company on our website. So if you have a manufacturer that is looking for a supplier of packaging, they can go to our free website and just find those companies that are certified to FSSC packaging, and you can filter it on location and area. And so you have that immediate visibility. We have, as I said, the robust integrity program where we are monitoring our certification bodies, we're monitoring our audits, and so that we can ensure the consistency of certificates all over the world. Being non-profit, we put a lot of our income back into that integrity program. We believe it's very important. And if you're ISO 22000, because ISO 22000 is not really owned, you miss out on that overall integrity and monitoring capacity that FSSC has. We have the prerequisite programs that we define, so those are publicly available. And we, through our board of stakeholders, we stay in touch with many of the international associations and the regulatory authorities throughout the world. And with our additional requirements, as we said, we have that added agility so that maybe as a food safety issue arises, we can incorporate that to provide added confidence within the certification. Our certification has been approved by the International Accreditation Forum, which provides some added robustness through the accreditation of the system and our certification bodies. And we also have a development program. It doesn't cover packaging at this time, but we do have a development program which is sort of like a stepping stone to achieve FSSC and aligned with the GFSI Global Markets Program. We're also aligned with the FDA. Because we're non-profit, we do control our own certification fees, and we like to think that perhaps we are a little bit more efficient, a little bit more economic than some of the other programs. So as I run out of voice, I think that's we've landed here. I hope that that has explained a little bit about how FSSC lines up with the other management system standards and attempts to achieve our sustainability goals, and how packaging industry can also accrue the benefits of FSSC 22000. So I'm going to stop there and hand it back to you, Amy.
Great, thank you so much, Jacqueline. Go ahead and give your voice a rest before we go into the Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and mention our next upcoming webinar, just in case anyone's interested in joining for that one. It's regarding traceability and risk management through SQFI. We'll be hosting Tammy Van Buren again. We've had her on our webinar series before, I think at least twice or 3 times in the past. So it'll be great to have her on again for anyone who has interest in SQF systems. We also have coming up an organic program webinar. The topic is still in flux. We haven't quite settled on a name or a description, but if you'd like to save the date, the link to register for that, as with all of our webinars, they're completely free to register, and we always post the slides and recordings as well. So go to our website, pgrfsi.com/webinars, and check that out. Register for as many or as few as you'd like, and we hope to see you there. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to the slide that has all of the contact info for FSSC up here. We do, as Jacqueline had mentioned, we don't have necessarily a packaging expert on the call. So if you have a very technical question about implementation for your specific system, we would encourage you to reach out either to FSSC or to PGRFSI so we can get your question to the correct person to answer that in the most appropriate manner. You can reach us at pgrfsi@pgrfsi.com, or like I said, visit our website, pgrfsi.com, and there's a variety of methods to contact us there. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and open up the questions tab here and see what we've got. All right, first question here is a clarification on one of the slides. Stacy, thank you for asking this question. Jacqueline, could you clarify on the slide regarding the top 5 non-conformances, what's the time frame that corresponds to that data?
So that's from when we released version 5.1. So the first one would have been last July? Last April to date. So that's just over a year.
All right, so fairly recent data. Stacy, hopefully that answers your question. All right, we've got a question here about remote options. Is there a remote option for FSSC audits, maybe for someone who has a no visitors policy in place at their facility?
There is a remote option. So there is a partly remote option if you want to do half of the audit remotely and then half of it on site. And with that, you would achieve GFSI benchmarked certification. So FSSC would allow you to do a wholly remote audit, but you would have to have a reason and an explanation of why you still have a no visitors policy. But that would not be recognized by GFSI. So you would have to identify that on the website that it's not GFSI and it's wholly remote. To achieve FSSC packaging audit with the GFSI benchmarking, because the GFSI at this point do not accept wholly remote audits, you could do a 2-part. So you'd assess your management system remotely, and then you could limit the amount of time you would have an auditor on site. But that would be the way that you would move forward in that way. I hope that makes sense.
I think it did. If anyone has any other questions, as I said before, please go ahead and type them right into that questions tab on your control panel. We're happy to field as many questions as possible. We also have with us Chris Reno. He's a project manager for PGRFSI. So if you have any other general questions about certification itself, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those too. All right, let's see. We've got a question here about certification cycles. How does the certification cycle for FSSC compare to other ISO standards like 22000 or 9001? Is there additional time added for the food safety elements?
So yes, there would be, because you have to assess your HACCP plan. But I will only talk about FSSC rather than just ISO. So because FSSC incorporates ISO, you have the ISO audit, but then you also have the audit of the additional requirements and the prerequisite programs. So there would be a slight addition in audit time. You also have, because of GFSI, a minimum audit requirement to be on site. So we have to meet that requirement too. So there could be a little bit of an additional time. The annual audits, the surveillance audits, are going to be shorter than a certification audit, but they still will be possibly slightly longer than if it was just an ISO audit, because an ISO surveillance audit would just take an element of an assessment. Because of the GFSI benchmarking requirement, we would have a little bit longer time required. we would need to go into depth in more detail to really evaluate the management system. So it would be a little bit longer than just the ISO on its own. Yes.
Absolutely. All right. For a company who maybe is not familiar with food safety systems but is looking to enter that area and diversify their products, is there any starting point for familiarizing staff and management with food safety standards that you would recommend, Jacqueline?
So yes, there are. I would suggest going first of all to the ISO.org website. There is a recently produced handbook on ISO 22000, which is available, which is very comprehensive and it provides examples. We also have our own website, which talks about FSSC. It talks about a little bit more detail about what's involved. But there are also many training organizations. There are many, if we have our own organizations that we license currently that are listed on the website, so you can talk to them. But I would start, I think, by going to ISO.org, having a look at the handbook, and then going to the FSSC website. There are also, there's a number of webinars. We have some webinars that are listed on our website. And I know that I've done sort of webinars with PJR previously that talks more basic about some of the elements. So I would start there and then go to the excuse me, I didn't check that off. Go to online and look at some of the training that's available.
Yeah, definitely. I was about to add on. Thank you for mentioning the plug for the other webinars we've done with both with you and with other industry professionals through PGFSI. I would encourage anyone looking to just get a general idea of other concepts in the food safety industry to go and check out our YouTube channel. As I said at the beginning, we record all of our webinars, as many of them as possible, and we upload those for free for anyone to review at any time. Share the links with everyone who you think would find it pertinent and relevant. And if you have any questions, any requests for future webinars, we are always open to getting new ideas for other content we can come up with. All right,
sorry, Amy, I just wanted to add,
yeah.
And I think, as you go forward too, there's numbers of ways that you go through these processes, and I'm sure PJR will do a gap analysis. We'll look at what you've got already. If you already have a management system, as I said, you're many steps down that road. Can do a gap analysis about what you're missing for your food-based HACCP plan, and there are also trainers that can come on site and can train your people on site. And it is a responsibility of management, if you are going to undertake the management system, as I mentioned, to make sure that your team is competent. There are many people out there that are able to help you with that. And of course, don't forget that the website, our own website, PJR's website, is going to have a lot of resources too.
Absolutely. Chris, maybe you could speak on, I know especially PGFSI, we do pre-assessments. Could you speak on those perhaps as an option?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Amy. I've been very quiet this webinar. So yes, to answer the question, Jacqueline, we have internally, we can do, really three different things as far as preparation. We can start off with some training, whether that's a virtual, online training, sitting a trainer out. We can help with a gap assessment. Now, a gap assessment is really kind of on the edge of making us a consultant. So if we come out and we do your gap assessment, we can't actually come back and certify you as it's a conflict of interest. So a lot of times if I have a client that is very new to this and needs a lot of help, we will actually kind of reference them out to a subcontractor, to a consultant that can actually come in and help them write programs, and then we can come in on the backside and certify those programs.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And yes, you've been a little quiet this webinar, so I'm glad we could toss you a question there. All right. I'm seeing one more question unless somebody sends one in the meantime. Jacqueline, you mentioned logo use earlier in the slides. Is the FSSC logo something that you might see on a product itself?
No, we don't. And that's what will be defined in the requirement. So no, because we certify the process, we do not certify a product. So a manufacturer will have a process for making safe products. So there may be different products that come through that process. So the management system is the certification is of that management system and the process of your documentation, of your procedures, of the way you conduct your reviews, where you conduct your internal audits, how you control your documents and how you control your risks, what your control points are. So we do not certify product. So thank you for that question. You will not see the logo on product. You may see it on people's website that are very proud to tell people that they are FSSC certified. It's quite an achievement. So some of our certified companies do put it on their website, but it's not on the product.
Yeah, and absolutely, like you mentioned, certification can be a great sales tool to help increase sales. So a good option. All right, I think that's it for questions that we had come in. If anyone has questions that maybe you're a little too shy to ask, maybe they're too complicated to type out into the limited space in that text box on the control panel, that's totally fine. Just go ahead and shoot them over to Jacqueline over at FSSC. The email address is on the screen right now. Or if it's more specific to PGRFSI and our certification offerings, feel free to send us an email at pgrfsi@pgrfsi.com. Or if you go to our website, there's a phone number there, there's a form to request a free quote, as well as I said before, all of our webinars, the slides and the recordings both should be available for you on our website and on our YouTube channel. So Jacqueline, I just want to thank you again for the umpteenth time we've had you on. We love having you on for all the great contents you offer. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and any parting words of wisdom?
No, I just noticed that the phone number is wrong. That's actually the phone number of home base. So if you need my phone number, then please get it from, I think we'll have to get it from Amy at this point, but sorry about not updating that slide. But no, I think that's fine. So thank you for your time. And that's my way to update it.
Absolutely no worries. As I said, if you did want to reach out just to get Jacqueline's phone number, reach out to PagerFSI. We're happy to put you in touch with the right person to get you the answers you need. So, all right, thank you all of you for attending today's webinar. As I mentioned, we'd love to see you on a future webinar. So stay tuned to our mailing list and our social media channels to see what's coming up. And if you have ideas, we would love to hear from you. So send those in, and hopefully we can develop some contents that will suit your needs. So everyone, I hope you all have a great day, a great rest of your week, and stay safe and stay healthy out there.
Thanks, Amy. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Bye, everybody.